Welcome, everybody, to the Rock Pile here tonight. A new edition here. We got the college football unfiltered. Let me just see if I can bring the guys on. I might be having some problems with this. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you a little muffled, but we can hear you.
Yeah.
All right, hold on, guys. All right, can you guys hear me now?
Yep, a little bit better.
A little bit
All
better.
right, let me fix it.
Getting there. How about now, guys?
There you go.
I don't know what happened, but I got you guys loud and clear. You guys ready to talk some football tonight?
Let's do it.
Been waiting all year for this.
So I apologize, as I told both of you guys, for people tuning in here. I'm using a new software, so it just kind of kicked out on me. So bear with me tonight here, but I'm really excited to have the guys back. We're going to have Coach Kramer was at a meeting tonight. Jake, he had the Section 3 meeting tonight, but he did say that he would be joining us for the next one. So I'm excited to have him on, and we got to see if we can get Medicis on, but he's got basketball. So we'll see, if we can get him on as well here at some point. I have an agenda, guys, as you guys know, but I got to be honest with you. I don't know if I'm going to get to any of it because we could spend all day talking about this damn coaching carousel with all the coaches going on. And obviously the big news was Lane Kiffin and about now, guys, can you hear me?
All good.
Gotcha.
All right, hold on. Test. About now, can you hear me?
Clear.
All right, hold on, because I can't hear you guys.
It's software. Gotta love it.
How about now, guys? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Can you hear me, Jake?
I got you. Well, muffled. We'll take it.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with my stuff here.
We lost you now.
Okay, it's back on now, so let's see if we stay on.
Yep. we can
Sounds
hear
like
you
it.
now.
We'll see if it cuts out. If it cuts out, I'm gonna have to figure something out. But hopefully, we're good to go here. But so as I was,
Some of the hires, and I got to say, my favorite one is James Franklin. Is that not a slam dunk hire for Virginia Tech?
Has to be, right? I mean, perfect school for Franklin, right? Reminds me a little bit of Vandy, a school that he can go set the culture, recruit well, but the expectation isn't 11-1 and national championship or bust. So he recruits well in that area. So I think it makes the most sense. Makes most sense all the way around. I thought it was probably the best possible landing spot that he could ask for.
And I think that's his motive too. Is he does a great job building programs. You saw he did at Vandy and even built up Penn State.
Absolutely.
So to bring that program back where it is, and he's taken a lot of those recruits with him too. So
one of the things that I said, so when Penn State cut him loose, I said it the day after. I said, if I'm James Franklin, why wouldn't you go to Virginia Tech? You have Clemson's down, Florida State's down. Seabus, he can go to Virginia Tech and win 10 games a year. He's a hero.
Oh,
And now you look at the Penn State when they, people said, did you agree when they fired him? I said, listen, I don't think James Franklin's a bad coach. The record against Ohio State, the Michigans of the world weren't very good. He didn't win a lot of big games. But I got a question for you guys. And Seabus living in Columbus. Who the hell's beat Ohio State over the last so many years in the Big Ten? Nobody. And it's who are you going to go get?
well, I think that's always the question, right? Is who do you replace that person with? My argument, and I've been as critical of James Franklin as anybody else. I think his game day coaching is awful. But from a recruiting, like Jake said, and a program builder, he's definitely your guy. I think that the expectations of the Penn State fan base and alumni are probably a little bit out of whack. I think the other knock that I would put on Franklin that I think he will be able to overcome at Virginia Tech is a couple of his big recruits that he recruited at Penn State didn't necessarily develop. I mean, Drew Aller came in as a freshman, heralded, and he looked like the exact same quarterback from his freshman year to his senior year prior to his injury. And the poor kid cost himself probably $15-20 million in the draft. But I think, look, we all remember the Beamer Hokies and Blacksburg just being an absolute nightmare place to go play. And I think there's no reason that Franklin can't bring them back to that level and put them back on the national scene. I think it's a home run hire for Vatek for sure.
I don't know what happened because, again, if you go back to this season, midway through the year, I mean, they have the lead on Oregon. They go into overtime and score. They're like a play away from winning, and 2 weeks later, he's fired. And it's like Penn State last year was, a field goal away from playing for a national championship against Notre Dame. They come in preseason. I'll be honest with you, I had them preseason number one. I picked them to win the national championship because I said, Penn State reminded me of Ohio State last year that returned a lot of guys. Michigan the year before that returned a lot of guys. And here I'm saying Penn State's going to do the exact same thing. That's the model. I don't know what happened for them. I don't know where it went south for Penn State. But I think that where he's going, and you can see it in the recruiting trail, all those kids from Penn State decommitted, and half of them just signed to go play for Virginia Tech. So I think he's going to go in year one next year. I think he's going to win a lot of games.
Well, I think we've seen with the portal and the recruiting class, you can flip a program around pretty darn quickly. I think the thing with Penn State that the loss that I think cooked Franklin was the UCLA loss. Right, we can all understand the Oregon loss in overtime, tough game, down to the wire, back forth. But losing as a 25-point favorite or whatever they were to UCLA and just getting curb stomped was insane to watch. And I think it snowballed obviously very quickly within that roster, and he lost that team. I don't know how else. I don't know what else from an outsider that I can draw from that other than to think that he lost that team. And he was there for what, Penn State, 10 years, 11 years. I mean, he was there for a long time. So it very much could have been that message is a little bit stale, and maybe those kids just kind of tuned him out. And again, like you said, it's a lot of fifth-year seniors that came back, and they knew their season wasn't going to go how they wanted it to go after they lost to UCLA. So I can see where it'd be tough to re-energize a roster like that when all your goals in August were gone in mid-October.
Yeah, I think with Penn State, I mean, you look across the board, like you said, Drew out. He really didn't pan out. And we've seen that across the board with Clemson, even South Carolina, that, hey, these are all Heisman Trophy predictors. they can win it. And this year they all have subpar seasons, and they're all supposed to be high draft picks. And that goes to show you how important that position is. Just like in the NFL, it's important in college that that makes that programs run. And if you strike out on that, you're in trouble.
You know who the other one was, guys, that I was looking at Bob Chesney, who I'm a huge Chesney fan. Love Bob Chesney. He's an East Coast guy. I said a few weeks ago that if I was Penn State, I would have called Bob Chesney up with the East Coast ties. And I see that Chesney gets the job at UCLA, which to me, I have no idea how that happened. No West Coast ties at all. But they get a young coach with who's won everywhere he's been. I thought Penn State would have came calling for Chesney.
I think Penn State's, I hate to say it, they're trying to look for that big splash, to take a chance on someone, like him that they would probably take heat for it. Hey, you let go one of your good coaches. You said you had coaches in line and you haven't got anyone yet. And it feels like Penn State would think they were just grabbing for something. And kind of, unfortunately, he went out to UCLA and took that opportunity. But I just think Penn State's trying to still find that home run hit.
Well, I heard this morning, guys, Matt Campbell's in play now at Penn State. And, I mean, Seabus, I don't know about you, but I feel like we've talked Matt Campbell for a long time saying, why doesn't this guy get a phone call? So if Penn State hires him, I think it's a slam dunk. I think Matt Campbell will bring some people with the NIL. Penn State only signed 2 kids yesterday on the early signing date, but now with the way the NIL is, I don't think it matters as much, but Campbell would be a home run hire, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think Campbell fits, what you would think to be there. I do think that there is a little bit of a concern from other coaches as to what is the realistic expectation at Penn State, and I think that scares away and has scared away some of those candidates from that perspective. Like I said, I 10-2 at Penn State get you, 6 out of 10 years, get you into the 12-team playoff, which is probably going to grow here in the next couple of years.
Yep.
And it's going to give you a chance, at a natty, a good percent of the time. I think Campbell is a really good fit. I do question, as long as Campbell stayed at Iowa State, does he really have the desire to go into step into that limelight? I'm with you, Jake. I think they want the home run hire. I think legit maybe the only potential home run hire left out there might be Brian Daboll, and I don't think they're going to lure him to college and ask an NFL coach to go recruit. But I think that's the only other guy that I see that would make me kind of raise my eyebrows as an Ohio State fan and say, okay, well maybe we need to be on the lookout for Penn State.
Maybe they're waiting for Harbaugh. That was the proven track record to beat Ohio State. Get the older brother or get the brother.
Yeah,
he might get fired by the Ravens.
Yeah, maybe John has a run at him.
Well, I would have thought, to be honest with you guys, when they fired Franklin, at the timing of when they fired him, that Pat Kraft, the AD, would have had a plan in place when you fire him so early in the season to try to get somebody in place for the early signing date and all that. But all these guys took extensions. And it's like, why doesn't anybody want to come to Penn State? Like, great. You can assemble a great roster. They still have money for the NIL. It's a great stadium. What's the reason why all these guys anteed up and ended up staying?
I mean, look, Happy Valley's in the middle of nowhere, right? I mean, I'm with you, Rock. It's a great fan base. They got money. It's not the most desired location, I would guess, from a living perspective. But I do also think, like I said, I also Pat Kraft. I don't know how much longer he has a job after he makes this coaching hire. If I'm on the board at Penn State, my immediate skepticism turns to the AD, because you did, as you said, you made the firing before anybody else did, and everybody kind of said, what are you gaining from firing James Franklin in the middle of October when the season was already cooked anyway? And they didn't do much of anything. I mean, they rallied around Smith, to a degree, but that was after they had played the meat of their schedule anyway. So yeah, I think they're looking for a new AD shortly after they bring in the head coach. I think that's probably shortly thereafter.
Man, how about the hiring, though, of Pat Fitzgerald over at Michigan State? You guys like that hire? I thought it was a great hire. I couldn't understand why nobody had taken a chance on him. He didn't break any rules. He was cleared, right? He's
Well, I
an old
remember
school
getting
guy. I mean, I think it's a great hire for Michigan State.
I remember reading that and going, wait a minute, Michigan State fired their guy. I didn't hear anything about that. And it's like, well, sure enough, they did. And it's like they hired him right away. It almost sounded like they got their guy. And I was like, yep, if we fire him, will you definitely come? And he's like, yes, I will. So it's a quick turnaround on that. But I was shocked to see that quick. I saw he got the job before the other guy was fired. But I think he'll be a great fit there because it's kind of like someone of a smart school can build there. And I think he has something to prove now. Especially all those allegations and all that stuff. I think he's going to be very hungry.
So
I thought the scariest. Sorry, Rock. I thought the scariest hire for all of it was for the Big Ten was Fitzgerald at Michigan State. Northwestern, he maximized the talent that he had there, and even the big schools that went to play them, the Ohio States, the Michigans, the Penn States. You weren't necessarily worried about losing to Northwestern, but you knew you were in for a 4-quarter. Just grind it out game. And now he gets to recruit some different level of kids that are, I'm with you, Jake. They have they have academic standards in Michigan State, but nowhere close to where they're at Northwestern. So he's definitely going to be able to bring in, some different caliber players. And they're going to be tough. They're going to be disciplined. And quite honestly, it's exactly what the Big Ten needs. The Big Ten needs those lower tier schools or that have been to lower tier schools. They need to rise up a couple rungs to really bolster the conference. So I was very enthusiastic with the Fitzgerald hire, without a doubt.
So guys, Lane Kiffin stole the show, leaving an Ole Miss team, which I got to be honest with you guys, I don't know how you felt, but I thought he was staying. I'm like, Ole Miss is going to give him more money. You read all this stuff on Marty Smith saying Lane Kiffin's found himself. He's getting his family life back together. He's not drinking and partying anymore. His family likes Ole Miss. And he leaves the team as, I'll be honest with you, I think they got a shot to get there and play for the national championship. I mean, the way the bracket is set up right now, I know it'll change. But I thought it was a bracket that's set up. They can run the ball. Quarterback's playing well. 2 great coordinators. I just thought it was like, is this guy really going to leave the team at this point in time? And then you see all the backlash from his team saying that's not how the meeting really went down, is the way Lane's saying. So I don't know what's true, what's not true. But I heard an interesting take today that made me think twice about something. Because everybody kept saying, well, why is he going to wait till after the Iron Bowl? And I think, I don't know if it was RG3. Somebody said this today, and I thought about it. I'm like, you know what? I could see this. He was waiting to see if Auburn beat Alabama. Lane wants the Alabama job. So was he waiting to see if Auburn beat Alabama, that if the Bama job came open, he wants to go to Alabama and be a Nick Saban? I didn't think about that until I heard that this morning. I'm like, maybe. But do you blame Lane, guys? LSU's a better job, right?
Jake, I'll let you go first. You're a coach. You got a better perspective here because I'll give you mine. I got a good take, but I want to hear Jake.
I think he was also waiting too, because if Auburn did win, he was in the SEC championship game, and I can't see him going, "Yep, I'm leaving now." So, if that's one of your dream jobs and you see that you can be very successful there, it's hard to say no because that job doesn't come open all the time. I mean, last time it was open, they went after Kelly almost and got him right away. And when LSU has a guy in their sights, they're going to throw it. They're going to get him any way they can, throwing money at him, promising him all that stuff, and having that NIL deal, $25 million back into the program that he can use more for it, and him seeing how the NIL deal works with the portal with high school kids, and he can get more of his guys in there, especially at the quarterback position and those skill guys. It is, to me, it's one of the top 5 positions, top 5 jobs in all college football. So it sucks with the timing of how all this goes down because you are abandoning your team that's right there in the thick of it. But it's also hard to say no to one of your dream jobs. Now, Lane, though, even with his father saying that, his father jumped around the NFL and everywhere. He could never stay put in a spot. So maybe it runs in the blood almost like he can't get comfortable into a spot. So maybe it's just in his family. So that's, hey, we might see him 5 years from now from LSU, jump to another job or get run out of there. So as a coach, I know it's not in a great position, but if that was his dream job, you got to go for it.
I don't think he's going to be there long, guys. I'll be honest with you, because I think he's got to win a national championship, get him in the playoff, make a couple deep runs. But I look back and I say to myself, the 5 years or 6 years he was at Ole Miss, what else do you want him to do? I mean, he could stay there, and I keep using Dave Clawson as I always do, but he could have stayed at Ole Miss, won 10 games a year, competed for an SEC title, got in the playoff. The playoff eventually is going to go to 16 teams, right? Mm-hmm. Get Ole Miss into the playoff every year, build a statue of Lane outside the stadium. He goes to LSU, which, again, to me, more resources, more money. He said it came down to the NIL money. They have more money at LSU to buy players. And Lane's going to chase the national championship. I'm not saying that he couldn't have done that at Ole Miss. I think he could have had a great career at Ole Miss. I think Lane's a guy that after 5-6 years gets bored. Yeah. I still think, C-Bus, if the Bama job comes open at some point in time, I could see him leaving to go to Alabama. But I think LSU's a better job with better resources.
Yeah, look, I think I don't disagree with both of you guys in the standpoint of LSU's a better job than Ole Miss, 100%. I think where I have in some of it, the timing is not his fault, right? The way the college calendar falls, it's ridiculous that the early signing day is yesterday or whatever it was, Wednesday or I guess it was yesterday, and then the fact that the transfer portal opens and closes. The one transfer portal opens and it's right in the middle of the national championship run or the college football playoff run right at the end, that I think is absolutely ridiculous as well. But what I don't want to hear is I don't want to hear the national media talk about these kids transferring and how the transfer portal is ruining college football when you have these college coaches that are going to leave their program in the middle of their best season that they've had in the last 25 years. Rock, you said it at the beginning. You think they got a legit chance to win a natty this year.
I 100% do.
And he said, no, I'd rather take the money and the better opportunity. I'm not going to fault a guy for doing that. But I think it's very hypocritical that we give these coaches a pass and we say, well, it's a better opportunity. Who can fault them? It's a top 5 job. It's this, it's that. And then I hear at the same token, oh, look at all these kids. They transfer. They want more NIL money. They go here and then they want to go here. It's like, well, there is no loyalty amongst any of them. So I can't hold the players at fault if these coaches are going to turn around an about face and run at the same time. So as long as we're under the understanding that, hey, look, if it's a better opportunity, player or coach, and you decide to go, fine, so be it, right? But we're also going to hear bowl games are going to come out. We're going to talk about that probably next week or in a couple weeks to come out, and we're going to talk about, all these kids are sitting. Why do all these kids sit? They're da. I think we've established this is all of college football. This isn't just a player problem. This is everybody now.
Yeah, when he left, I mean, everybody on social media was all over him, right? They were bad-mouthing him. Well, Lane, he doesn't care about anybody but himself. But, you talk about the players that get the opportunity to transfer with, again, with the portal, and then you get the bowl game C-Bus as you're talking about. But, again, I'll go back and say John Summerall, the coach that just got introduced at Florida, is going to go coach Tulane tomorrow night against North Texas.
Yep.
What's different about that? Chesney's going to go coach JMU in the Conference USA Championship game. What's different about that? Because if they win, there's a good chance Tulane gets into the college football playoff.
Yep.
So why isn't anybody saying anything about those guys, but they want to go after Lane Kiffin? Because, yes, he's leaving a team that's 11-1. Completely understand it. I still think it's a team that can make a really deep run. I get it. The NCAA needs to move stuff back, right? They need
100%.
to move this back.
Yep, start the season earlier.
They have to do something. They put all these coaches in a really tough predicament.
Yeah, or just push the windows back, right? Push signing day back, push the transfer portal back, push it all back. So then that way you can open up a window. This is when coaches can go. This is when movement can happen. and then everybody can be settled in by mid-March or something like that before spring practice, right?
Well, they always come back with their students, and it doesn't fall in line with the
Right.
college schedule, which, as we all know, they're not really going to class. They can figure that out. It's a business almost.
Too much
so
money.
Guys, there were some really disappointing teams this year. Obviously, we've talked a little bit about Penn State, and obviously Mike Norvell over at Florida State, another disappointing year over there. And I'm surprised they are keeping him, right? It sounds like they don't want to pay his buyout. They're hanging on to him, so we'll see there. But I think one team that I want to talk about, because Matt Rule was mentioned for this Penn State job, played for Joe Paterno, right? Everybody's like, well, Matt Rule's got the job if he wants it. But Matt Rule's record against top 25 teams is terrible. But I look now and I'm like, it's another 7-5 year for Nebraska and Matt Rule. Like, if this guy don't turn it around next year at Nebraska, he's probably getting fired at Nebraska. So to me, Nebraska was one of my teams. I said, maybe an 8-3 year C-Bus, 9-3 year type like that, 8-4 in the Big Ten. Disappointing year and a disappointing end for Matt Rule at Nebraska.
100%. I can't figure out why a coach can't get Nebraska turned around, right? I mean, I think Nebraska grossly overestimated or underestimated, I should say, joining the Big Ten. I think they thought they were just going to pick up where they left off, and the program was just going to continue to roll. Obviously, college football and the landscape changed, and Nebraska couldn't keep up and didn't change. I think again the issue with Rule is they don't have the guys. I mean, you look at them, the depth's not there. The line of scrimmage isn't great. I think I expected a little bit more from the transfer portal with him. Those guys didn't necessarily pan out. I think that fan base and that alumni is starving. And I'm with you, Rock. I don't think he has another 7-5 year in him and be able to stay in Lincoln. I fully and the other thing that makes it even worse is it's not like it was a strong Big Ten conference this year.
Yep.
So you can't even. It's not. At least last year you could look at it and say, okay, the conference was. You had good 5, 6, 7 teams there that were definitely of quality. This year we weren't. Big Ten wasn't anywhere there. So the excuses that he has are running out fast from that standpoint. So maybe he stayed because he wanted to finish. Maybe he thinks that they're close and they're ready to turn the corner. But I sure as hell don't see it.
Jake, what about Clemson? Your Clemson Dabo. I mean, he's made some comments in the media throughout the season and some frustration there. A 7-5 year. Now they found a way to finish strong, right? Winning the last 2 or 3 games. But how much longer? I thought Dabo maybe have been interested in some of these other jobs. What's going on with Clemson?
Well, it was kind of like Penn State. They got your quarterback back. You got almost their whole defense back, especially the defensive line was supposed to be one of the top in the nation. And then you get a new coordinator from Penn State that's been on that, and they've always known for their defense that, hey, he's going to come in and lock down teams. And with Klubnik being senior year, possibly, they were talking about top 10 pick in the draft and everything, as stocks high. And they even went in the portal and got a couple of receivers out and had some receivers develop. So everything was in place. It's just, for whatever reason, I guess it wasn't clicking. When I watched the film, it was almost like Klubnik was trying to do too much at times. And then also sometimes it felt like the play calling was somewhat vanilla, not letting Klubnik be able to do different things and do, Riley having a certain type of offense and trying to go fast at times. But they did have the players there, and it's just, for whatever reason this year, didn't click. Maybe it's, Dabo's way of being all in this year didn't work out because he didn't have the right guys in spots. But, that's definitely a disappointment. Luckily we finished beating South Carolina, who had a down year themselves. They were predicted top 10 with all their guys returning. And, luckily Clemson finished on a high note. But the only job I see Dabo leaving for possibly is the Alabama job. And I don't even know if he'll do that now. Because he is getting older and older, and right now he has a good system in place. Yes, he's fighting people with how he does stuff, and it's kind of kicking back on him. And I think he'll get more in the transfer portal. But I don't see his name being. I don't see him going anywhere else other than possibly Alabama, where he played.
As an Ohio State fan, I would love it if Alabama took him. I think the game is passing Dabo by. I think that's just my take from Columbus perspective. It very much feels like to me his message and the way that he used to recruit and the way that he used to get through to those kids has not adjusted in the last 5-6 years. And I think the message is falling on deaf ears. I think he has been reluctant to use NIL, which has definitely bit him. And look, hey, if he wants to stand on his principles, I'm not going to fault a man for holding his ground and there. I respect that to a degree. But I just look at them and it feels like the same team every single year, Jake, to me. It feels like every time I watch them, the offense feels conservative. And then to your point, it feels like they're aggressive at the wrong times. I feel like defensively, they've never, haven't necessarily seen the athletes on defense that when they were in their heyday and in that run, definitely feels like they're missing some of those guys. They used to always look for Clemson to find, an outstanding DB that they would have back there. An outstanding
you had Venables that threw so much at you that I mean, he's going to Oklahoma right now, and he's one of those few coordinators like, holy cow. And now they're trying to replace that. And the guy from Penn State this year is a totally different sit back. He wants to be patient. They have to beat us all the way down the field so teams could dink and dunk kind of down, and they're like almost die by 1,000 cuts. Almost.
And I think the hard thing with Dabo is, Rock, you said it, that who are you worried about in the ACC anyway?
Right.
Yeah. Right. It's I could almost excuse it if he was, battling in a tough conference and it was like, well, these teams came up and they've been better. And it's like, I look at the ACC and go, there's no reason that Clemson shouldn't be still holding that crown. Right. So, yeah, it's going to be fascinating. He definitely whiffed on DJ and then, Klubnik, hey, look, I mean, I think I'm with everybody. I liked what I saw from last year. Definitely took a regression step this year. But he's definitely on the hot seat for me. If Clemson wants to get back to relevance, Dabo only has that other year. And I think secretly, probably my take would be, if you're an alumni or a board member at Clemson, you're hoping that Dabo goes somewhere because you don't want to fire him. You don't want to let him go. He brought so much prestige to that program, took them to heights they've never been. I think the last thing you want to do is have to part ways with somebody like that. So you almost hope that he does it for you.
Yeah.
So, guys, the other name I was thinking about is what about Sark? What about Sark at Texas? I know they got hot here at the end of the year, and they're making the argument that – and listen, I don't think Sark's got a bad argument, C-Bus, when he says, what's the point of going to play in Ohio State and teams like that to start the year when right now, I mean, let's be real. If they were 10-2, they didn't make the SEC title game, they're in. So you're going to penalize a Texas team that – lost by what, 1 score to Ohio State? But I think the loss that's going to come back to get Sark is the loss to Florida, right? A really bad Florida team. Georgia waxed them, late in the year. So I get that argument. But again, Texas came out what? They were preseason, 1 or 2 to start the year?
They were number 1.
How much longer do they go with him there?
I mean, I think Sark bought himself at least a couple years with the run last year, right? I mean, he took them to the semis. They were they're driving on Ohio State to tie that game before Sawyer comes up with the strip stack and the rumble bumble stumble 85 yards for the TD, right? So I think Sark has a couple more years. I think, and especially because I don't think Arch is going anywhere, right? I think Arch is going to stick back and come back next year. So I think I think Wingo has to come back, right? Because I think Wingo's only a sophomore. I don't think he can go out next year. So they got plenty in the tank returning next year. And I hear Sark, right? Like that, it's unfortunate. You played a big school, you played Ohio State, you had the 1 versus 2 matchup or whatever that was going in the first game of the season, lost a close game on the road. And then just kind of, they took a while to get their sea legs. But that loss to Florida is so tough to get over. And to your point, Rock, if they lose to Georgia by 3 or 4, lose to Georgia by a field goal or something like that, I think their case is much stronger. But you go and get mopped by Georgia. And while the Ohio State score was, a 1-score game, Ohio State was up 14-0 in that game with 3 minutes to go. And Texas hadn't gotten past the 40-yard line of Ohio State for 3 quarters before Ohio State kind of let them get that kind of last minute score to kind of make that score look a little bit more respectable, if you will.
And I think too, if their offense was clicking all year and it was a high power offense, and it's like, oh, Ohio State stopped them, great defense, and
Sure.
Georgia okay, but they've been in the beginning of the year, they were subpar, talking how bad Arch was looking. So it's everyone's looking into that now. That's why I don't think they were ranked as they could have been ranked higher if they were blowing out teams.
Without a doubt.
So guys, I got up here, and hopefully you can still hear me because my mic's cutting in and out. So hopefully you can still get me here.
You're good.
But I'm looking at some of the surprise teams, and I got to give my guy Mark Carney a shout out at Kent State. I told him I'd give him a shout. I've been bragging about him all year. So he was the interim head coach there, C-Bus. Horrible the last 2 years. I think they were like 1-20 something. And he comes in, wins 5 games for him in the MAC. And I know 5 and 7 don't sound the greatest, but he was in a lot of games. Got named the head coach. He got the tag removed from him, and he had a great year there at Kent State. So I want to give him a shout out. And then I think the other team I want to recognize for me is how about Jason Eck over in New Mexico? 9-3 at New Mexico in the Mountain West. Attendance was up almost 70%. It's a small stadium. They seat over 30,000. But I think New Mexico was one of those programs like they play football in New Mexico. Like I remember as a kid when we used to play the tabs, the games, right? On the very bottom of the tickets, they were always like plus 35, plus 30, something like that. But hats off to Coach Eck over at New Mexico.
Hey, New Mexico always had the fun offense to watch. I forgot who the coach was. He was always creative. And those were those late night games on Saturday, especially being a college or a high school football coach. It's like, wow, look at this type of offense going on.
Yeah, I'm with you, Rock. I thought Kent State. That's a great pull. I'm gonna take one that maybe doesn't shock everybody, but I thought I had the 2 that I circled. One was I thought BYU. BYU surprised me this year just from the standpoint of they were they were not supposed to be a whole lot of anything this year, and again found themselves in the conference championship game. Ridiculously tough defense, ridiculously tough line of scrimmage and control of the clock. Definitely a team that I think just continues. And maybe my surprise is the consistency that BYU's put together. But they're definitely on my radar. The other one, I always rag on them, so I'm gonna give them their love, even though I think they're gonna get iced out of the playoffs, is Miami. And the reason I'm gonna give Miami the surprise is when they lost middle of the year, I think we all said, there comes the Miami swoon. Here comes them losing 4 out of 6. They're gonna limp home. They're gonna end the season disappointing. Typical Miami, start off the year hot and find a way to just absolutely pee down their leg the last month of the season. And they righted the ship. Cristobal kept those guys focused. They had their hiccups, but he kept that train on the track to keep them in the conversation. They were playing good football as the year actually wound down. So I'll give Miami their props as much as I'm hard on them. They earn a little bit of a surprise love from me.
Guys, what about Wake Forest? What about Wake coming in this year at 8-4 in the ACC after down last couple years? Virginia came in this year 10-2 in the ACC, playing for an ACC championship, which I think is absolutely crazy. But they're going to play Duke that's 7-5, with a chance to go to the playoff, which I think is crazy. But I got to tip my hat to them. I thought they had a really good year.
That was my was the Virginia team coming out. He didn't have a schedule, but he's done a great job in turn that program around.
You guys still got me?
Yep, now you're back. Got a little loud there, but I think we're good.
I don't know what's cooking in tonight. So guys, the rankings came out. A lot of discussion about Notre Dame, a lot of discussions about Miami and where they sit right now. And right now, Notre Dame's at 10, Miami's at 12. But I want to ask you guys at the top here with Ohio State, Indiana. We'll get into these conference games. We'll pick them here in just a little bit. But I had said that if Indiana loses, how far are you going to drop Indiana? How far are you going to drop Ohio State? John Gruden had a really good take, and I posted it tonight on Facebook. And he said, so you're going to tell me that Ole Miss and these teams that aren't in these conference championship games basically get a week off to prepare. And now you get Ohio State and Indiana, these teams playing in the conference championship where now Ohio State and Indiana, win or lose, they're both in. But you look at Alabama and Georgia, Alabama loses, gets the 3 losses, they're probably out. But he said, take the 5 conference championship winners they're in, and then how about you go play these other 5 games where you have like maybe Notre Dame plays Miami, maybe Ole Miss goes plays Tulane, like have them still play a game so these other teams aren't getting penalized right now for being in these games. I thought it was a really pretty interesting take. But did any of these rankings, these top 11, 12 teams, anything surprise you guys?
Not me. I've been pretty lockstep. I feel like with the committee almost all year. The way that they've had these teams, the way they has these teams slotted. I understand the Notre Dame, Miami argument, right? I think head to head, you got to be really careful in making sure that head to head still matters, right? But I think again, Notre Dame, those 2 losses were the first 2 games of the season. They're breaking in a new quarterback. Replacing a lot from the national championship runner-up team, and I think they've had one of the strongest margins of victory all season. I think they're at 26 or 27 points as their margin of victory. Throughout the rest of this, after the 2 losses. So, I tend to agree. I understand Gruden's point. Pops and I had a similar discussion, Rock, about hey, what's the benefit of playing that extra game? You can argue the benefit is if I win, I get a bye. In Ohio State's case, they get a bye. So everybody does have to play that game. Everybody will have to play the week before that Ohio State has to play. But then you look at it last year, and I think every team that had the bye last year lost, or at least one. I think 3 out of the 4 teams lost that had the bye going in, right? So the real question is going to be, I think if that trend holds up this year and you see teams with byes lose again, I think you're going to see a whole different approach for how people want to. Do they really want to be in that conference championship game or not? Or do they really want that bye or not? Because do you get a little bit rusty sitting there? But yeah, I mean, there's no perfect system, right? I mean, I think that's the other thing. We're trying to figure this out on the fly. We were begging for a playoff outside of 4 teams for what felt like 7-8 years. We get to 12, and it felt like 2 years. 1 year after we get to 12, they're already talking about. Can we get it to 16? Can we get, where else can we take it? And it's like, okay, hold on. Can we just work out the kinks of the 12-team playoff before we're trying to add another 4? Because let's be honest, they're going to go to 16, and we're going to be talking about teams 17 and 18. 100%. It's the same thing we do at the NCAA tournament. We get 64, 65 in, or now 68 with the playing games, and we all start talking about teams 69 and 70, right? So there's always going to be somebody left out in the cold that's not going to be happy.
Well, I think the problem is you look at Alabama. You just said if they lose, they could be out. I mean, for SEC to have an extra game and get penalized that bad for it, where hate to say Texas A&M wins that game, Alabama's in the playoffs, sitting there nice and pretty. So you're going to punish an Alabama team that, let's say they lose to Georgia by a touchdown or 2, and it's going to be like nope, and Georgia's ranked 3rd or 4th in the country. And they're going to get penalized that hard and get kicked out of the playoffs, which is, we all know that. Why is the playoffs not growing so much? Because the SEC, we want 6 or 5, and the Big Ten, hey, we want 6 or 5, and everyone else, we'll give you 1 extra slot or 1 guaranteed slot. So it's going to be interested to see that if they do bump out Alabama if they lose.
That'd be 2 years. I mean, that'd be 2 years. The first 2 years of the college football playoff in Alabama. I think the committee said that they don't want to hold conference championship games against the teams so it will be interesting to see.
Especially with Alabama's wins. That's the big thing compared to, all right, you compare, I know they have 3 losses, but put them up against a Miami, even Notre Dame. It's like, hey, they beat all these teams. I mean, they went on that run. They beat 5 consecutive ranked teams.
Yep.
That's pretty impressive.
So Steve, I've got to give you your minute here. Rivalry weekend, the Ohio State Michigan game. Ohio State dominated. And I got to give this to you. You're about the only Ohio State fan that I got respect for. Even my wife that's upstairs, she sits down all the time. She was pretty good this past weekend. But I'll say this: when that game was over, I thought Ryan Day handled the flag with about as much class as you possibly could. And Michigan was standing in the middle of the field, and we know what happened last year. And I thought Ryan Day, when he came up to midfield with Sherman Moore and said, "Listen, get these guys out of here because we're going to get our guys out. We're not going to do that." I thought that was really classy for him. And then the other thing I wanted to say was he was good to Michigan because they could have scored. I mean, they were the better team. Now, me watching that game from being a Michigan fan, I'm going to say this, and I know a lot of people say, "Well, it was a good test for Ohio State." See, Bus, Michigan wasn't a good team this year. That was not a test for Ohio State, and Julian's saying they were the better team all year. They were the better team going in. I thought Ryan Day, they threw the ball like they should have did last year. They were the better team. But Ryan Day could have scored whenever they wanted to.
100%. I think where I would agree with you from a football roster perspective, they were better, hands down. But the last 4 years, I had made the comment a couple times that Michigan had turned into the boogeyman for Ryan Day, and there was a mental hurdle that they had to overcome against Michigan. And look, the way that game started, if you're Ryan Day, and I think I heard him on Bustin' with the Boys earlier this week talking to Taylor Wan, and Taylor Wan just asked him, he said, "Hey, was there a moment after Michigan went down, scored a field goal, and saying second pass is picked off that you went, oh, here we go again?" And Ryan Day said, "Absolutely. At 100% went through my mind. Like this is happening again. We're going, So I thought it was a testament to Day of how he prepared for that game. I think he learned his lessons, and what you're seeing from Ryan Day is just a coach that has matured. I think everybody forgets that Ryan Day was not a head coach before he started at Ohio State. He was an assistant. He had no head coaching experience on the collegiate level. He got thrown into, a top 3 program in college football. And on a national stage, we've had to watch this guy mature. And the loss last year to Michigan, was 100% a tipping point for the program and for Ryan. And he answered the bell. And you can just tell he's a different coach this year. From his press conferences to the way that they play, to the way that he, if you remember last year, everything was he had to prove that they were the toughest team, and he was going after Lou Holtz, and Michigan baited him into that game last year. They baited him into playing the style that they wanted him to play, and it worked out in their favor. And I think you're looking at a guy that's comfortable in their own skin. To talk about Ohio State, though, what I will say with that team is, Julian saying, has the potential to be the best quarterback that I've seen at Ohio State, in my 42 years of being here, and that's saying something because C.J. Stroud had a phenomenal 2 years at Ohio State, but the accuracy in which I see that Julian Sand plays with is amazing. But what I'll tell you, Rock, is the level, the composure that Sand plays with is pretty special. Now, again, I will say, I don't know who Ohio State's been tested against yet. So we will see as Indiana's going to be a test. And then, look, when we get to the playoff, everybody's a challenge at that point. But you're throwing the 2 best weapons in college football. Got to make your job a little bit easier if you're Julian as well. But they've been a blast to watch this year for sure.
So I think this, too, is when you win the national championship like you did last year, coming in this year, it's like you can see a sigh of relief on Ryan Day's face. Now, I will say, when Michigan got off, they kicked the field goal, they intercepted him. I'm looking in the sideline, it's like he's got to be sitting there saying, "Here we go again." And
Not
I'm
again.
like, maybe there's a shot. They punch one in, you go up 10-0. You're at home. You never know what could happen. I want to tip my hat to Matt Patricia. Losing as many guys, C-Bus, as they did last. Now, don't get me wrong, Sonny Styles, they got dudes on all of them. And I'm going to say this: I don't think they've been tested all year. Like they didn't have to. They didn't have to play USC, who they would have beat. They would have beat USC. They didn't have to play Oregon this year. Now, to their credit, they beat an Illini team that came in preseason ranked in the top 10, top 15. They kind of disappointed a little bit. Penn State, obviously, that game, I think they were a 3-touchdown favorite. And it was like if you would have told me to start the season, Ohio State was a 3-touchdown favorite to Penn State. What I want to see for the Buckeyes is I want to see a close game. I want to see Saban with the ball in his hands late. Now, when you got the studs that they have on the outside, it makes the game a lot easier. He hasn't been pressured, and that was the last couple of years, I would say, with Michigan. And I don't know what you guys think, but they got to him, right? That Michigan front four was in the back, and I don't care how good of a quarterback you are, right, Jake? You know that. If you can get to the quarterback, you're going to make them uncomfortable. Michigan never got, like I kept saying, I don't think they got to the quarterback once. He's had all day to throw. So I want to see if a team can get to him, and I want to see in a close game what happens.
I don't disagree. I think, Ohio State couldn't have asked for a better schedule and a better breakdown for a way to assimilate Julian Saban into his college career, right? They had a tough game against Texas to start the year, and they absolutely babied him. I think Saban threw the ball maybe 14 times that entire first game. They let the defense win them that first game. And then ever since then, it's just been a little bit more. We're going to give you a little bit more, to let Saban kind of develop. What I think's been the change for Ohio State that I share everything you said. I want to see him be tested. I want to see some of those things. But I thought the big change for Ohio State the last month of the season was they found their run game. The talk down here the first 2 months of the season was, can we run the ball when we have to run the ball? And I thought the most resounding answer was the 18-play drive or whatever they went, against Michigan, where they took up 10 minutes of game time and they ended up kicking a field goal. But I think everybody knew it didn't matter. By that point, by the time you got the clock and they kicked the field goal, everybody knew Michigan wasn't going to be able to overcome that deficit regardless. But Matt Patricia has been a breath of fresh air here. I think he's probably the hottest name that everybody's been talking about. You see a lot of people with pencils in their ears. My niece is a freshman at Ohio State, and she tells me down on campus as people are going to a game, everybody's got a pencil in their ear. Everybody's a big Matt Patricia fan. But similar to what you said, Jake, about Venables, I think Patricia runs a very similar style from the standpoint of he shows you one thing, and they're in a complete different coverage. You think they're in zone and they're playing matchup man, or you think the linebackers are playing the flats, and all of a sudden they're stunting and coming in on a blitz. He's fun to watch from a fan perspective to see how he puts those players in position to be successful, and they love him. Those players, to see a coach come in first year, those players are eating everything up that he has to say, and why wouldn't they with the performance that they've had this year?
I mean, you could see it with the quarterback, Julian, even from that first game, like you said, baby him, and then the Michigan game, 4th and 2 or 1, and they throw a slant and go to him out there, and he drops it in the bucket out there. So you could definitely see he's come a long ways, and it definitely helps that you have a clean pocket, but it also helps when you got studs on the outside too. So it's
quarterback's best friend, right? I mean, Jeremiah Smith is definitely a unicorn. I talk about seeing the best quarterback I've seen in a long time. Tough to say Jeremiah Smith's the best receiver that come through Ohio State, but boy, he puts up another year next year like he's put those first two. He's going to put that to bed in no time.
Yep.
So C-Bus, you guys lose Brian Hartline, but he's going to coach through the playoff. I was really surprised that Hartline. They said he was a candidate for the Penn State job, and I said if I was Penn State, I'd hire him, get him in there, a young guy, right? What's your thoughts on Hartline leaving? Big blow.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, we lost the recruiting blow was huge. The timing, we talk about timing. Last thing you want to see 2 hours in the early national signing day, your wide receiver coach and offensive coordinator that's brought this lineage of wide receivers with him announces that he's going. And we felt the immediate impact with Chris Henry Jr. not committing and Mike Flip to Oregon, which is was going to sting. And I'm sure Cody will tell me about it later. But it was. I will say I am extremely happy for Hartline. He's a Buckeye through and through. I loved him when he was here. I like watching him in the pros, and has been the journey that he's taken as a coach here. He was a grad assistant. He walked out. He walked down. He didn't have official title when he first started at Ohio State, and has worked his way all the way up to now be the coach. At USF, I think is phenomenal. So I'm rooting like crazy for him. It stinks, but I also know that everybody in that program had to know this was to be expected. If it wasn't this year, it was 100% going to be next year. His stocks.
Were you surprised at the school though?
Yeah, I mean, I think a little bit, Jake. But the more I thought about it, for him, what a great spot. He obviously played with the Dolphins, so he knows that area really well. He recruits that area really well, right? Jeremiah Smith and some of those boys came from Florida, so that definitely helps him. And I think it's a great program to where he can go and establish some success, but the expectations are not going to be through the roof when he first gets there. I think he's going to have some time, and Buckeye fans' thought is, if Hartline, continues on this trend, when Ryan either decides to hang him up or maybe go to the league, or maybe decides he wants a new challenge, maybe that's the guy that they tap on the shoulder to come back after he cuts his teeth elsewhere. So it's bittersweet, for sure. I'm super happy that he's staying. We talked about Kiffin, and then we look at the exact opposite, where I think Hartline's going to stick it out for him. So, I think there's a lot of trepidation, but then again, I look at the last couple hires that Ryan Day's made, from a coordinator perspective. Chip Kelly was definitely a work, run him a national championship, whether or not I'm a huge Chip Kelly fan's up for debate. And then, and then you look at Patricia this year, right? So, they shouldn't have any problem bringing in a top tier coordinator to want to go coach.
Bring back Kelly though.
They could, but I mean, I think the long list of applicants will be pretty long. Who doesn't want to be the offensive coordinator at Ohio State with the weapons that they have and the program that they have? So it will be fascinating for us to see, who steps in. But Ohio State fans
he's almost turned out like Alabama with Nick Saban. Hey, we're going to get this guy, redirect his career, blow up, and everyone wants to go there.
On to the next, right? Yeah, I mean, Ohio State fans are smart. I think the bigger concern wasn't the X's and O's with Hartline leaving; it was the recruiting, right? Mm-hmm. That's what everybody was worried about. It wasn't necessarily. I think everybody recognizes that he's a good coach, but everybody's worried about losing him on the recruiting trail because the wide receivers that he's brought in for the last 6 years has been second to none. So that's going to be the hard part.
I'll say this, guys: when you got talent, it makes coaches look all that much better in the world, man.
100%.
You go to Ohio State, you just can't screw it up. But C-Bus, Matt Patricia's from Sherrill, New York, which is not too far from us here. It's about 15, 20 minutes.
Okay.
I did hear not too long ago there's a good chance the University of Connecticut is going to come calling for him to bring him back this way. So it'll be interesting to see at the end of the year what happens with Patricia. He's from right back here in our hometown. So I'm trying to get him on for an interview. I'm trying to get some connection to see if I could talk to the guy.
I don't know if he, I haven't really heard him say if his desire is to be a head coach again or not. Right. I don't know. I mean, this was kind of his first dip of the toe in the college game. And, so I'll be curious to see if that's a challenge that he wants to take on. But I can't blame him. Look, his stock's at an all-time high. Right. So
his family's still near the Patriot or Boston, aren't they still kind of?
I think so, which I think that's one of the reasons why they're saying maybe bring him back this way, East Coast guy. But I don't know. I wouldn't leave Ohio State as a coordinator to come coach the University of Connecticut, but
I wouldn't.
And there's another coach that was interesting to leave Connecticut to go Colorado State.
Yeah, Jim Mora. 100%.
Yeah, agreed.
So, guys, you ready to pick some games?
Let's do it.
Let's pick some games here. So we'll start with the American Conference, and then both these coaches got other jobs. So, but they're still going to be allowed to coach here. So Tulane 10-2, North Texas. Tulane's actually getting 2.5. I'm actually to go with Tulane in this game. I like both teams. Maybe the winner gets one of the second at large into the playoffs, so we'll see. But I'm going to go with Tulane, C-Bus.
Give me Tulane as well. I think they're a smidge better. I think got a couple more weapons on offense. I think they'll score just enough to squeak past this one. So I'm right there with you. I like Tulane as well.
Jake, how about you?
Oh, I go back and forth. I think Tulane's played a better schedule, a little bit tougher, going outside. I know it's Duke. I know it's, they played Ole Miss compared to North Texas, didn't play those type of quality teams. So I think I'm going to go Tulane. I think with both coaches leaving, if the other one stayed, then it would be a different story. But since they're kind of in the same boat, I'm going to go with Tulane. All
right. So we're all in agreement there. The Big 12, these two teams played earlier in the year, and Texas Tech beat them, I think, by 2 or 3 scores. So many people are saying that if BYU wins, both these two teams are both going to get in. If Texas Tech wins, BYU is out. Can probably debate it. But I'm going to go with Texas Tech again. I'm even going to lay the 12.5. I don't think it's close. I think Texas Tech's a team C-Busted. I think could make a really deep run. They're pretty good up front. Yeah,
I think they're a bit of an enigma to me, right? I don't know how much I trust the Big 12, but I agree with you. Every time I watch them, they dominate the line of scrimmage way more than I would expect to see a Big 12 team, to execute. I'm going to take Texas Tech as well. However, I don't think they cover. I think BYU has a nothing to lose mentality here. I think they get to let it all hang out. I think Texas Tech knows they're already in. They are paying for a bye though. So there is a little bit of motivation there for Texas Tech, not to mention, their best season since Michael Crabtree, right? So, I'll take Texas Tech, but I think closer than people think.
Jake, you think they cover? You like them?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, what's funny is we're talking Texas Tech's defense. When was the last time we were talking about their defense? They've always been the aerated offense. Now their defense is up front and showing. So, C-Bus makes a great point. BYU has really nothing to lose, so, and that was their only loss of the season. So I don't think they're going to, I think Texas Tech's going to win, but on a last second field goal. So I don't think Texas Tech will cover the points, but they'll win the game.
You know what I think's sad, though? Even if BYU loses, they could say their 2 losses this year that are a team that's going to go to the playoff, and they probably have that argument. The Big 12 obviously was a little down this year, but I like Texas Tech. You go back, man. God rest his soul, Mike Leach, one of my favorite all-time coaches in college football. I remember the run he took Texas Tech on when he was there, so I gotta roll with Texas Tech.
I mean, this shows you too, NIL money, what can you do? That school down there is just even softball. You talk about any sport now.
Good call out, Jake. It's not the last time we're going to be talking about Texas Tech. No. You're 100% right.
So, guys, Bama's had Georgia's number even in the Nick Saban era. Kalen DeBoer gave Georgia their only loss this year, but I think Georgia's playing really well right now. I think defensively, it looks like a Kirby Smart defense. Didn't start that way for this year. Gunnar Stockton's playing really well. Kalen DeBoer came out and said, I don't know why people are linking me to the Penn State job. You think Alabama's got their number? I like Georgia. I know Bama beat them earlier. I'm going to roll Georgia. Bama's a 2.5 dog in this game. Who do you like, Jake?
I think I'm going to go with Bama. I think Bama has something about it, and I know they beat them earlier at their place, which was a great win, but I'm not sold on the Stockton kid at Georgia. I think he's a high and low guy. He plays off emotions. He could have a bad game. I've seen him kind of not, how do I say this? Like them not rely on him so much, and we need him to make a play and he doesn't. Where the Alabama kid, he was in talks for the Heisman Trophy at one point, and he is a different quarterback than they've had in the past, and he's pretty accurate. And I have more faith in him as a quarterback, so I'm going to go with Alabama.
C-Bus?
Yeah, I mean, this is tough game. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't think the SEC is that good this year. I think there are I think that all the teams are about the same in the SEC. I think they got a lot of good teams and not a lot of great teams. And not really a great team in the SEC. That being said, I think Georgia is really beat up. I think they're beat up on the offensive line. I think that Kirby, if you had given true serum, I don't think he wanted to play in this game, to be honest with you. I think he wanted the week off the rest, similar to what you were saying, Rock, about what Gruden was talking about earlier this week.
Yep.
So with that being said, Bama knows they have to win. And I think the board knows he, quite honestly, has to win this game to keep the pitchforks at bay. So I'm gonna take Bama. I'm not comfortable with the pick, but I'm gonna take it.
The only thing I'll say, guys, I like Georgia because I don't think Ty Simpson's played that well the last couple of weeks for Alabama.
He's struggling.
And I think Georgia's defense is playing better, but I think you guys are right. I don't think Kirby wants to be in this game at all, but we'll see. I think if Bama finds a way, if they do lose, we'll see what happens with Kalen DeBoer if he is rumored for any of these other jobs.
Yeah, agreed.
All right. Arguably probably the two best teams in the country. I think Indiana's probably got the best win this year at Oregon on the road. So you can probably say that's the best win. I mean, they've kind of been similar to Ohio State, C-Bus. They've blown everybody out of the building. This could be the Heisman game for Sayin and Mendoza. Whoever plays well probably gets the Heisman Trophy. Indiana has basically smashed everybody they've played. Ohio State minus 4.5. C-Bus, I'll start with you. I know you're going to probably roll Buckeyes, but is this game close?
So I'm gonna say I'm going with Ohio State. Obviously, I think Ohio State wins by 10. To be honest with you, I think that Indiana is good. I think what Cignetti has done there is incredible. I've been joking. I'm watching this game out of two lenses. Rock knows I'm a diehard Browns fan, like it or not.
Yep.
So I'm watching it on one eye because I want to see how Mendoza does against Patricia's defense to see if I think that it's worthy for my Browns to maybe try to make a move to draft him. I just think Ohio State's defense is too much. I think Indiana does struggle to stop the ground game, and I think Ohio State's running game is really starting to turn the corner, and putting Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate indoors on a fast track on turf, I think over the course of 4 quarters is going to be tough. I think Indiana comes out hot. They're going to have the home field advantage. Hottest ticket in town. I think I read the cheapest ticket right now is $588 to go sit in the nosebleeds at Lucas Oil on Saturday night. So I think it's a close game for a while. I think Ohio State pulls away maybe midway through the 4th quarter. Would I be surprised if Indiana plays them close or wins? Not necessarily, but I think Ohio State's on a mission to win the Big Ten. It's the one thing Day hasn't done. Won the Natty, hasn't found a way to win the Big Ten championship. And I think this one means more to Ryan and that university than maybe people realize.
Jake, who you like?
I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's one of those ones that coaches are going to be every play, kind of counting every guy and make sure they're getting up so they can stay healthy for the good playoff run. You know, it's almost like both of them probably would almost rather just have the bye. Okay, we go right into there and we both have buys. So, and I think that mentality, you know, with Indiana, I'm going to go Ohio State with their run game, like C-Bus said. But I think it's just going to be close with a lot of teams just kind of running the ball and almost like, let's bleed the clock. Let's keep it close. It'll be better for both teams no matter what. We'll both get buys where if one team blows them out, well, you know, it makes their conference look bad, and it's a chance for you to possibly hurt some of your guys. So I see them just kind of being more hesitant, kind of storing stuff for the playoff run and everything and not showing too much out there.
Dude, Ohio State's going to blow them out. I don't even think this game's close. I think C-Bus, I'm going to go more than you. I'm going to say they beat them by 2 or more touchdowns. I think they're that much better. If it's close, I probably say I won't be surprised. Maybe Indiana is for real. I don't know. But in the world we live in today, when would we see the head coach at Indiana turn down the job at Penn State?
Yeah.
Like, that's the world that we live in. That he's staying at Indiana that now has NIL money. They said Indiana's like one of the largest schools with the biggest alumni booster club in the world. And I'm like, the Indiana coach is going to stay there and not go to Penn State?
And turn it down quickly, too.
Exactly. I mean, he had to have the best line. We said, all I do is win. Google me. I mean, come on.
What are you going to say?
Like, that's in 2 years, the run that they've been on, I think, is unbelievable. I mean, he's cocky, he's arrogant. But I give him a lot of credit for what he's doing in Indiana. But Ohio State runs the table. They're going to beat them by 2 or more scores. I just don't see Indiana. Again, if it's close and Indiana beats them, maybe Indiana's really for real. I'll still say that I think Indiana's got the best win all season at Oregon on their schedule. But again, I don't think Indiana really played anybody on that schedule.
I think Jake's right too. I think there is a little bit of a throttling question as to how much do both schools open it up in this game? How much do they want it? And how much do they want to sell it all the way out, knowing that they're gonna have the playoff, both of them waiting on them. The other thing is I flash back to last year, right? Indiana was on this great run. They came into Columbus, and the game was I could tell the game was over by midway through the second quarter because there was no way that Indiana could hold up on the line of scrimmage against Ohio State. So that's going to be the matchup that I have my eyes on is can Indiana bang with them? The other thing that Ohio State's been really interesting with, and obviously just a rags to riches at times with Ohio State, but they've sat a lot of guys that protecting red shirts. That once you get to the conference championship game in the playoff, it does not count towards your redshirt game. So Ohio State has a couple kids, even a CJ Hicks, who is a redshirt junior, who rushed the passer really well the first couple weeks of the season, and all of a sudden we didn't see him. He'll be playing this game, so I wouldn't be surprised if you see a couple guys for Ohio State make plays that you're going to go, wait, what? Who's that? And then you're going, oh, he's been sitting for the last 7 games because Ohio State's had that luxury. So they got some fresh bodies that maybe all of a sudden make an appearance on Saturday night.
So the other one, guys, last one here. Duke at 7-5 playing for the ACC title against Tony Elliott, who I think's done a fantastic job at Virginia, who was really on his way out coming into the year, was on a tight leash, 10-2. If Duke wins this thing, we might get 2 at-large bids from the winner of Tulane and North Texas, and maybe James Madison that would get in. Any chance Duke gets them?
I'm gonna say there's a chance. I think the thing I like about Duke is they can score like that, right? Their offense, I think they have one of the quickest. They have one of the quickest touchdown drive ratios. I think I can't remember how many minute and a half drives that they have to score touchdowns this year. It's crazy. So I think there's a chance. I just think Virginia too many guys. It still comes down to the players in the roster. I do think Duke's going to keep this. Close. I wouldn't be surprised if Virginia kicks a field goal late to win that game. I also haven't seen what they still play that game outside, right? So I haven't seen what the weather is going to be like there in the ACC championship game as well, because I think it's still outside. So if it is, I'll keep an eye on that one as well. So give me Virginia, but I think it's going to be entertaining. I think people are going to be surprised that a 7-5 team's hanging with Virginia, but I think it'll be interesting.
Jake, you going the same way?
Yeah, I'm leaning the same way. It's just funny how the ACC, you got that many guys or that many teams tied: SMU, Miami, Pittsburgh, Georgia Tech, and them, and it's like the lowest record, 7-5, goes to the 5th tiebreaker somehow, which I couldn't even quite understand. And it's like one of your tiebreakers wasn't okay after the 3rd, 4th. Who's ranked higher in the standings? And I bet you they'll change that down the road because it could be easily. Right now we have Miami in the playoffs, and it's a whole different, or the championship game. It's a whole different story, but it's just amazing how we had to go that far with computers to just decide it was Duke. I mean, like C-Bus says, I think Duke's been hot the last 2 games, beating Wake, beating their rival North Carolina. So they're kind of hot right now, but Virginia also, it's been consistent most of the time all year other than the Wake, but I think it's going to be a close, and I could see part of me almost want to say I want to see Duke wins it, and that's what you get ACC for having that tiebreaker that we're going to have no one in the playoffs, and we screwed ourselves as an ACC fan. So I'm actually going to go with Duke. I think Duke might pull it off in the last second field goal.
All right. Well, if there's anybody that benefited from the scenario of the what ifs, Duke had every what if go right for them the last week. Every team they needed to lose lost to get in. And Manny Diaz is another name that was rumored for that Penn State job. So we'll see if they can pull a stunner off. So, well, guys, listen, we're out of time.
Diaz and Cristobal. Diaz will be the fun, or win a conference championship before he does. I guess those
Crazy.
two are pretty good or tight coaches together.
So, guys, hopefully we'll run this back again. We'll see if we can get Coach Kramer. I think said he'd be good to go the next time. We'll see if Medicis has hoops. My audio, I was battling on behind the scenes here, guys, that we were going throughout the show. I don't know what happened. My thing kicked off on me. So
You made it
hopefully I was able to get through this thing. But it's good to have you both on to talk some football. And I'll be messaging you guys to do it again very soon. And look forward to the weekend.
Absolutely, boys. Good catching up with everybody. Thanks for having us, Rock.
All right.
Time
Thanks,
flies
guys.
when we're having fun. Thank you.
Heck yeah. So I was telling these guys, I was battling behind the scenes here. My audio's been in and out, and I don't know if it's because we're getting some remodeling done upstairs and the wires and stuff. So hopefully I was able to get through this thing. Great to have the guys back on here tonight. We'll have Coach Kramer and some of the other guys on throughout the playoffs, and we'll probably bump this thing back next week or the following week. So hopefully everybody enjoyed tonight's show. So the Rock Pile is where dreams become reality. Have a good evening, everybody.